And check 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. And welcome to another great episode of Framing New Heights. My name is Michael Hicks, and I am your host for this wonderful show. We are going to get into, y'all, positive self-talk. How many are like, yeah, I need some of that in my life? Like, what is it? Why is it so important? What are the benefits? How you can turn negatives into positives. And if you truly are struggling, where can you get additional guidance? So let me break it down for y'all. And if you would be so kind to make sure, as you were listening to this podcast, hit the subscribe button, pass it along to 5 other people, and please do give us a review, because that's how our word of mouth gets out, and that's how our podcast gets introduced to other and more influential people like your wonderful self. So thanks again for tuning in. So let's get into positive self-talk. Well, what is it, y'all? Y'all know, what? Take 2. Y'all know what it is? Well, I used to teach this heavily when I was teaching as an educator in health class. And what positive self-talk is basically an internal dialogue that makes a person feel good about themselves. So what this is, it's a person, as a person then, you use positive talk to think. The key word, think optimistically, and then feel motivated. So when you do that, you have the ability then to identify negative self-talk, which is the first step towards thinking more positively. Have you ever caught yourself and you're like, man, I'm so stupid, man, I'm so dumb? That internal dialogue can be detrimental to your self-esteem, your success, your thought pattern. So as you continue to talk positively to yourself, it ends up developing what is called a natural cognitive process. So when people begin to engage in self-positive talk, they are able to face obstacles or challenges easier. People use self-talk either silently, or you can even speak to yourself out loud. All right? Like, I'm going to be great today. This is going to be an awesome day. It kind of goes into correlation, you guys, a little bit with affirmations, right? So you wake up in the morning, you say your affirmations, and then you begin your day, right? Well, amongst other things, you should do some other things as well. But as we are continuing to talk about this, but self-talk, especially in a positive way, can either help you significantly with so many benefits, but it also can be detrimental to you on the other spectrum as well. So what I want to do right now is I want to break down a little bit about the importance of how people can break the habit of negative self-talk. All right? So first and foremost, what there's a actual study that was done for the benefits of positive self-talk. So there was an Iranian study done, I believe, in 2020, where they suggested that self-talk affected how people coped with anxiety during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay? What also was reported that people who reported using positive self-talk, get this, y'all, had less anxiety about death and fewer symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. The study went on to talk about and found that people who engage in positive self-talk developed effective strategies to cope with emotions and ultimately distress, or mental stress, I should say. So then there was another study in 2019 And what it did, this is a really unique one and really significant for students, the impact of positive self-talk statements on public speaking anxiety. So in other words, people, what they did is they basically found that when they used positive self-talk before they got into speaking in front of individuals, giving a proper speech or presentation, they experienced less performance anxiety than students who just didn't even do it. Now, what the other big thing, let's talk about athletes, right? Athletes and individuals who are actually, me being a former athlete myself, who participated in sport, I wish I would have known this a little bit more back then, because I feel like it could have probably benefited me. But in 2020, they did some research where self-talk motivated and helped improve technical performance. And, it found positive self-talk to help athletes stay more engaged and have more fun. So I'm giving you all the research information here because there's a couple more. There's a 2014 review and there's another 2019 study that actually backs up this entire process that I'm talking to you about. That's why I think positive self-talk is so vital. But what it's done is it really addresses people's excuse me. Take two. The research indicates that how people address themselves during self-talk affects how they feel. And for example, in 2014, when using non-first person pronouns, I know we're all on that he, she, thy, and all that stuff, but stick with me here. But using non-first personal pronouns such as you and one's name rather than first person's pronouns such as I helps people regulate their thoughts, their feelings, and behavior under social stress. And then there's a study in 2019 that actually backs this theory, indicating that using second-person pronouns in positive self-talk improve the performance, time, and output in endurance sporting settings. So what does negative self-talk actually have? Like, what is it? What does it do? Well, people that engage in negative self-talk often feel anxious, insecure, less confident, and have low self-belief of themselves. Negative self-talk can be very detrimental to a person's self-esteem. It actually lowers their self-worth, and I did an entire reel on self-worth, and any abilities that they think they might have or may not have. And there's something called I believe it was the College of Cognitive Behavioral Therapies suggested that negative self-talk can lead to something of a very vicious cycle that is self-fulfilling process. Take two. The College of Cognitive Behavior Therapies suggested that negative self-talk can lead to a vicious cycle and self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, let me break that down a little bit. If a person tells themselves they will not be able to do something, they may be less likely to put effort into doing it. Then when they fail, the person might think, I knew I could not do that. That's just typical of myself. How many of you are like raising your hand right now? Like, yeah, that's me. Here's another thing too. We can throw the two words that I often use in my programming for my clients is the try and the can't. It's negative self-talk. It blocks forward progression. And here's the other side. When we get into those areas of negative self-talk, the train of depression sets in, the train of anxiety sets in, and you're then put in this dilemma, this ugly, vicious cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, Michael, how can I self-talk more positively and then less negatively? Well, let me break it down for you. I got some good examples that I'm about to go. So if you're on a walk and you got your phone and you want to get out your notes, you're gonna like this part right here, because this is honestly really I like to call it the bread pudding of it all, because the bread pudding's the best when you're not on a strict diet. Just love life sometimes, guys. You gotta love life sometimes. All right, so how to make self-talk more positive and less negative. Here we go. Noticing negative self-talk and turning it around before it takes hold can help you significantly build more positive behaviors in your lifestyle. Okay? And when that happens, guess what? That becomes a habit. And habits can be changed if you are taking the first step of talking more positively and identifying negative thinking. A person can notice how they talk with themselves when they face specific challenges, right? How many are like, absolutely? So I'm going to give you a little bit of some examples here of how to turn something negative into a positive. All right. So again, if you're listening to this podcast, again, if you truly like it, hit the subscribe button, hit it, send it to 5 other people, and you can maybe even bookmark this part and tell them to listen to this part, because this part's perfect. So let's say I'm going to start out with a negative self-talk piece. That's too difficult. How many of y'all are parents and are like, how many times do your kids say that? Well, have them say this instead. It sounds challenging. All right? Or how about, I cannot do that? Well, you can say, I'm going to give it my best shot. I always mess things up. Well, if I mess up, I'll learn from it. Notice I didn't say I'll fail from it, because I don't think we ever fail. We just learn from our failures. We fail when we stop growing. And another negative self-talk piece. I have always been this way. Maybe you're like, I'm always clumsy. I'm always this. I'm always that. Well, I'm open to change. I don't know why we're doing this thing, because I'm going to fail anyhow. Instead, I want to succeed. My life is so awful. I'm so lucky. My life could be worse. No one likes me. I like myself. And the last example that I want to give you guys is, I do not know anything. Instead, say, I want to learn. Notice the difference there, right? Notice how important that is. And to those of you that are listening out there and you're a chronic negative self-talker, you know, that can be associated to some kind of mental health disorders. And I'm not a doctor by any means, nor do I claim to be a doctor, but my 12-week program identifies these areas. I don't go super in depth because there's other areas as well, but it definitely can be a sounding board to negate the negative self-talk and get the repeated thoughts into an alignment of positivity. So you can get rid of that anxiety piece and that depression piece and an OCD. But if that's truly not enough, I would suggest seeking some type of medical professional help. So I want to continue here as we are going. Where are... I want to break down a lot more of the benefits for you all on positive self-talk. And I think it's truly another super hidden superpower, you guys, if we truly want it and grasp it, right? So let's dive in a little bit. Here, why is it so good for you, right? Everybody wants to know the why question, and I often even tell everybody. We had a couple great interviews on our podcast earlier, and one of the questions I asked one of the doctors is like, how do you find the best doctor? Ask them questions and ask them why, right? So, why is positive self talk good for you? Well, self talk can enhance your performance and general well being. For example, there's so much scientific information out there. Self talk has helped athletes with performance, it has helped them with endurance, with power through sets of heavy lifting. So here's another reason why. Well, what if you're not one of those? I'm not a pro athlete, Michael. I don't lift heavy weights like you meathead. No, just kidding. See, negative self talk. Boom. Just caught myself on that one. So, furthermore, self talk has like an optimistic outlook on life. And what that does, it helps promote health benefits. Here they are. You have more increased vitality. Here's another big one. You have greater life satisfaction, improved immune function, reduced pain, better cardiovascular health, better overall physical well-being, and then a reduced risk of death and less stress and distress. Now, don't get me wrong, there is eustress, which is positive stress, all right? And then distress is the negative stuff. So keep that in mind. And it's okay to have eustress. Eustress would be like my daughter had eustress. She's just recently auditioning for a theater act, and I think it's Aladdin Jr. So I'm excited to hear more on where she's at. She shot for the stars like the Hickses do, so we'll see what happens. But it's not clear. Take two. Research suggests that people with positive self-talk have mental skills that allow us to solve more problems, think differently, and are more efficient with coping with difficulties, hardships, and challenges. Even I'm going to throw in there that anti-fragility term, right? And they also reduce anxiety. And I've been pounding on that word. So how can I make it work? Well, I think there's four categories that you can really hone in on to practice positive self-talk. But you got to identify the negative piece first, right? And this type of thinking then will generally fall into these four categories. So personalizing. I alluded a little bit about this earlier. You're blaming yourself for every single thing you do. Right? Well, it was my fault if I didn't do X, Y, and Z. You know, I use these two words a lot to tell my clients is say this to yourself because no one's perfect. We make tons of mistakes. We are full of sin. We're going to make mistakes consistently. If you're living a life of perfection, it's never going to come. You're going to be living a life that's unfulfilled. So use these two words. It's okay. That will help you stop blaming yourself for everything. Number two, the second category is magnifying. All right. You focus on negative aspects of a situation and ignoring any and all of the positives. How many are like, yep, that's me. Michael, are you speaking to me through the speaker here? So if you can truly grasp that and aware of that, you can stop the negative thinking. The other one is I want to call imploding, right? You expect the worst. How many of you are like, okay, any type of situation that happens, we always expect the worst. And 9 times out of 10, what's the answer? Never even gets there. So, and you rarely let logic seek in to persuade you otherwise. Okay? So that's the third category. And then the fourth category is polarizing. How many of you just see the world in black and white or good or bad And there's nothing in between. There's no middle ground. There's no processing for categorized life events, nothing. When you can begin to develop and recognize and then put those in those categories, y'all, this will help you promote positive thinking. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be this is going to be, if you want truly to get rid of all the things that I mentioned before, the anxiety, the depression, the unhappiness, the unfulfilledness, all of those things, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I will tell you, it can be done, because there was a study in 2012. They did a study with small children that corrected negative self-talk. So, and parents, I can't share this enough with you. If your child is saying some things about themselves that is negatively, oh, I hate myself. There's some areas that you should be asking then. Well, honey, why do you hate yourself? Everything goes wrong. I'm raising my hand. My daughter, she doesn't necessarily say that, but she's having some difficulties with some other things. But what's important is you help them refrain the positive side, see the positive of different areas. So I'm going to give you some examples or scenarios that can really, again, turn those negative self-talks into positive ones. So let me retract. So take two. So I want you to begin using this stuff on a daily basis. And here's how you can do that. So positive self-talk takes practice if it's your natural instinct. If you are generally more pessimistic, right? The drives in the morning, are you enjoying the visuals? Are you seeing the snow on the ground, the beautiful colors of the trees? Whatever fall, whatever season it is, learn to shift your inner dialogue to be more encouraging and uplifting. How many of you know some people that you're like, man, I constantly hanging around with Debbie Downers, right? They're constantly something negative about something. Can you imagine what their life's like? So positive self-talk can become your norm if you can use these simple tips to help. So avoid let me say this again. Identify negative self-traps. Like certain scenarios may increase your self-doubt and lead to more negative self-talk. What are some of those events? Are they work events? Because some of that can be really difficult for some of us. Okay? But be really mindful of those self-talk traps, and then maybe limit those if you can, and so that you can be prepared and anticipate the worst coming, if that makes sense. Another one, check in with your feelings, y'all. So during events or bad days, evaluate your self-talk. Do some scripting here, right? Where you're like, was I becoming negative today in anything that I talked about or did today? And then the follow-up question to that is, how can I turn it around? And laugh at yourself, y'all. Laughter can help you really relieve stress and tension. Because we all need the boost of positive self-talk, and finding ways to laugh can be funny. Like sometimes, I remember when I was in the education system for quite some time, is I would turn on a funny animal video and just laugh, or a comedian and just laugh. And here's the other thing, you guys. Surround yourself with positive people. You know, as I've been on my journey on positivity, change, growth, mindset, and all that, I'm very mindful of those that are negative, because what happens is, you guys, that absorbs the outlook of our emotions. People do that are around us, that are constantly negative. But if you surround yourself with positive people, you're going to be more positive. You're going to have a higher outlook on beautiful things. And I talked about this earlier, as well as giving yourself positive affirmations. And I do this every single morning. And it is critical for you to do the same thing, because seeing positive words or inspiring images like a visual board can be enough to redirect your thoughts. So, what's your positive visual that you have every morning? Is it look at yourself in the mirror? Are you saying those affirmations when you see yourself in the mirror? You're like, oh my gosh, what do I look like? Right? Those are some big things to really narrow down. And even set small reminders in your office, at work, home, anywhere you spend significant amount of time. When you can truly identify your triggers and begin to use positive self talk, like I'm going to speak up in a meeting today because I have something important to contribute. This sounds like a positive plan and attitude, right? Or I don't think I want to speak up in the meeting today because I look foolish if I say the wrong thing. It contrasts this negative comment with the statement above. So remember the rumination of negative self talk. Flip it around to create positive self talk. Because when you replay upsetting or cringe-worthy thoughts or events over and over in your head, that's going to be a problem. And then you're going to be caught up in that you get in the overthinking train, and now it snowballs, and now it's something, you made something so big, and now you can't even go to sleep. And then that even gets into the depressions and the anxieties and all that thing. So I think this statement really kind of sums up this whole podcast. Is the statement shows negative thoughts can grow and become self-defeating. Here it is. I look so fat in this dress. I really am fat. Look at those thighs. No wonder I can't get a date. Why can't I lose weight? It's impossible. You hear all that? Isn't that crazy? Language matters, you guys. Language so matters. You guys, there's a great author, and she goes on to talk about giving negative thoughts a name, and then by both stepping away from them and then poking fun of them. And you kind of can do it in like a third person self talk, can help you step back and think more objectively about your response to those emotions. And whether you're thinking about a past event or looking in the future, it can also help you reduce stress and anxiety for that piece. So, the quick way to get it started, you guys, is just listen and learn. Just spend a few days really listening closely to your inner thoughts, your inner talking to yourself. Are you supportive of yourself? Are you critical? Are you negative? Would you be more comfortable saying those thoughts and words to a loved one? That's always a big question that I ask. What are the common threads, themes, repeated, and write them down, script them as frequently as possible. What negative thoughts did you have today? And then think it through, you guys. Ask yourself the following questions about each of the thoughts you've listed, right? Am I overacting? Is it really that big of a deal? Is it important in the long run? Am I overgeneralizing? Am I coming to a conclusion based on more on an opinion or experience than facts? Am I mind reading? Am I assuming others have specific beliefs or feel a certain way? Am I guessing how they react? Am I labeling myself harshly? Do you refer to yourself using words like stupid, hopeless, or fat? Scary. Scary. Is that all or nothing thought? Am I viewing one incident as either good or bad without considering that the reality is rarely black or white? The answer usually lies in the gray area, you guys. It's between the two. And here's the other thing, is how truthful and accurate are those thoughts? Step back and then consider the accuracy of those thoughts as a friend might do it, right? And then, when you can truly switch gears and have a better idea of your inner thoughts and know that those inner thoughts are skewed. And then you could switch those negative self-talk gears into something positive. You'll understand that your wording will be more kinder and it'll be more positive. And I can't share with this enough, you guys. When instead of calling yourself an idiot, I can do better than that. Like, for example, maybe you have a U-Haul, and this truly happened. I'll give you guys a story. This was years ago, and I thought I knew what I was doing. I had the U-Haul. I was like, we're going to back up in the snow to get your stuff. Guess what happened? U-Haul got stuck. Yeah. So I could have said, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I don't know how to drive. But the response is, I can do better next time. And I should be more aware of that snow. And I want to give you another example here. Is I can't do that in just 1 week. It's impossible. Here's an alternative. It's a lot to do, but I'll take it step by step, which I call chunking or KPI goals. And I think I'll see if my friends can help me as well. So, folks, you really can win in life. But you gotta get rid of that inner critic. You gotta, and learning how to have productive, positive, internal conversations that are not upside down. And when you can adopt positive self-talk, your life will be more fulfilling. And then you'll be able to step forward with a better version of yourself, improving your self-worth. And I want to leave this with you guys tonight as I close shop on self-talk. But self-talk is important in so many ways. It's a script that we can use to truly frame our lives. If we always give ourselves negative messages to ourselves, what do you think that's doing? It's developing what is called an automatic thought that takes us from a particular incident into a negative emotional reaction. So do you know how to control that? Do you know how to fix that? This whole podcast was about that today. So if we engage in positive self-talk, we begin to view the world in a more positive and willful manner, ultimately freeing ourselves to become the best version of ourselves. Because guess what? We can only control so much, right? We control what we do, only what we do. We have no control of our external circumstances, right? And it's then the reaction, right? We can control our reaction to it. How are you reacting to that negative stuff when you have a bad day? And thank yourself. Thank yourself. Thanking yourself is one of the most critical things that you can do for your body because it develops self-love, self-awareness. Doing that allows you to get rid of that negative self-talk. Well, my friends, I know this is a quick, simple podcast, but as always, strive to become the best version of yourself in mind, body, and soul. And as always, thank you guys. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Send it to 5 guests, 5 new people. Someone that could really like this tonight or today. Till next time, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. Stay flexed.